And we're live.
Ooh. Ooh.
Ooh, is that the music this time?
Yeah. Ooh.
Okay,
Ooh.
I've composed new theme music for the Scalawags. It goes, "We're the Scalawags. This is the Scala podcast."
Ooh. Ooh.
Is it good? Do you like it? I really worked hard on that.
Can
That
I,
was
can
really-
you
I
throw the
worked
lights
very
on
hard.
and off?
I've worked
While
very
you-
hard on the backing vocals, as you can tell.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really pleased with the harmonizing that Dick threw in there. It's really good.
We're ready for a tour, Seth. It's going to be Rock Band for real.
Well, the good news is we're back. We're back.
It's been a
People
pretty
are
long
asking,
hiatus.
hey, when's the next episode? Well, for those of you asking, it's right now. It's
Yeah.
happening.
So I don't know about the rest of you, but by some way of explanation, I started a new job and it pretty much swallowed me whole for a while there. But I'm getting a handle on it again now. And even better, I'm back in GIS, Geographical Information Systems, which is the thing that I have my master's degree in. And I sort of got out of it 10 years ago probably. But I'm back in again, and it feels great. I'm really having a ball.
That's good.
So, yeah, and lots of Scala still.
Oh, wow.
By the way,
Excellent.
GIS with Scala, yes.
Wow.
It's pretty good stuff.
It's hard to fit all that Scala on the globe, but you do it, right?
I'd forgotten that, in many ways GIS was the original big data, because when I worked with it, 20-odd years ago, it was huge amounts of data, especially remote sensing, satellite data. And I'm just getting back into it again, and it's just staggering, the amount of data that you have to deal with. You actually have to plan how you're going to shift it through everything without, ever loading it into memory, and the whole thing. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. Anyway,
Well,
so
we have two people who were just at Scala Days.
yes,
Two people who were not.
yes,
So I was
we need
thinking
to
we
hear
could do
all
a
the
quick
news.
interrogation.
Yeah,
Does anyone have a
definitely.
bright light above their head? Where you can't
Hold on.
face? Do you like that?
Is it better?
See how I angled it for the interrogation?
Oh, I see.
How did Scala Days go?
We have a ways of making you talk.
Okay,
Yeah.
how should we start? Is
Well,
there?
let's do. So I think we always started with favorite talk or favorite moment. So if you and Seth want to take turns, was your own talk your favorite, Heather?
No, no. I have to say, I really very much enjoyed the Scala Native talk. It was very it was very well done, and of course, everybody's excited about Scala Native in general. And then there's the fact that Dennis also managed to be hilarious throughout his talk. So it was not only a very cool thing that was being presented, but it was also something that was presented in an entertaining way. So that would be mine. Seth, do we share the same favorite talk, or do you have a different one?
That's certainly the project that probably everyone is most excited about. I mean, maybe there's like it's so early on this project, right? I mean, but just the fact that someone is working on it and it's actually been announced and launched has everyone really excited.
Yeah.
For my favorite moment or favorite thing, I would nominate Eugene Bermaco's outfit.
Yes, actually.
He was looking sharp.
Oh my gosh! So there's something that happened with like John Pretty being in the proximity of Eugene Bermaco. I don't like John sort of seems to have inspired stylistic like clothing habits or something with Eugene. But now,
It's funny because I've hung around with John a few times and it's never rubbed off on me.
well, I don't know what happened, but John is always has a very nice coat or a very nice shirt or something.
He does. He's a sharp dresser. Like I
Yeah.
said, it's. I've never caught that particular virus or whatever off of him,
But you
despite
did.
trying many times. I'm
Great.
still a jeans and t-shirt guy.
Yeah. So it may just be that I was dazzled by Eugene's clothes, but I actually would nominate that talk as a top talk as well. Like it looks like it's another like progress report on Scala Meta, but it just looks like the progress is really impressive, and he's now has projects based on it to show. So there's this new Scala code formatter by Olaf somebody that's based on Scala Meta. It's like a successor to Scalariform, and Olaf was able to put that together. I think really quickly. At least it looked like it happened really quickly because Scala Meta is such a solid base to build on.
That's
excellent. His demo. I mean, he started at EPFL as a master student, and he had his demo. He demoed it to the group, and it basically looked finished after like 2 weeks. I mean, there was all kinds of ways that you could then configure it and whatnot, but it was beautiful, and he had already made an IntelliJ plugin and an SBT plugin or something for it. So it was incredible progress in almost no time, and of course. Many people attribute that to the Scala Meta tool, and I have to say, it's beautiful. Like the Scala Meta ASTs are really really nice. It's like you see them now, and you're like, why weren't we somehow doing this before? It's just I don't know how else to describe it other than very well done, very beautiful sort of like implementation and idea.
I got to say, from my perspective, I've been Scala's third tier tools to take off. And third tier, I mean, like, there's the compiler, which is tier 1. Then there's, like, the meta tools, like SBT, Scalariform, I would say is actually kind of a second tier. But we're starting to hit third tier tools, like static checkers, linting, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And Scala Meta is going to enable all of that, or a lot of that, a huge portion of things that have been so hard to do in the past. I'm really excited about Scala Meta. So...
you can do better
Can we use it?
You can do better refactoring, much more ambitious refactoring when you've got tools like that as well, because you can detect so much more of the kind of problems that would occur otherwise when you were doing some kind of massively ambitious refactor on there. So that's exciting too.
Yeah.
Very cool.
How close is it to being done?
Well, I mean, as far as I understand, basically Meta is the trees, kind of. And Eugene has found a nice way to basically include everything, like white space and comments and all kinds of stuff in these trees, which is why it's useful for tools and like this formatter. But there's the other side of it, which is, like he figured out, okay, well, there's two things that we do. This is something that Martin and Eugene and several people have been discussing, and I know you guys have heard about this inline proposal, but I think at this point, like today, the view is that there's, at compile time when it comes to actually like evaluating or doing things, you can either inline code or you can evaluate sort of methods at compile time. And that's inline and then like this meta keyword. And I'm not quite sure what the status is of all of that. I mean, as far as I can collect from sort of what I've observed in the hallways of EPFL, for a long time people have been talking about, somebody should do the inlining, and nobody kind of picked it up because Eugene was more working on the tree side of things. But I don't really know, how much of inline, like the inline keyword and the meta keyword, like actually doing stuff with these interesting trees is done yet. I mean, like the quasi-coding and all of that is done, but not the actual, like, as far as I know, I think that there's still development going on the actual doing stuff with the trees right now.
He's trolling the current version of beta, and he said that means it's feature complete for 1.0.
Yeah, that's what he said, but I guess I haven't seen or played with it, so I wasn't sure if I could just take it and use it, or.
I may do so very shortly here. Real quick, I think Dick was going to mention this. So I'm clicking the button. Go ahead, Dick.
Oh, okay. So we got a quote from, or an update from Lutz Hunken, and he says, "I think the Scala format's person name is Olafur Paul Gearson." So apologies if I butchered those names. I have a long habit of doing so.
I'll get that in the show notes.
It's better that you butcher them than I butcher them. Is all.
Well, I've got lots of practice from my days on the Java Posse of butchering people's names. It actually became we became famous for screwing everybody's names up. So I'm quite happy to.
Is a standard English name that we can pronounce and we'll still butcher it.
Yeah,
Don't
definitely.
Worry. Don't worry.
So can I at this point throw the cart into reverse and do a full J turn, because we glossed over Scala Native, and I have loads of questions about that, because we saw, or at least I saw something about it about a week before Scala Days, and I'm like, ooh, that looks interesting. And then, of course, we haven't been, Josh and I, not being there, haven't been able to soak in all the information about it. So I have some questions, like, basic things. I don't know if they're known yet, but what's the size of the kind of binary produced by it? Is this something that could be run on an embedded device, for example? Is it small enough and light enough to be used for that? Because that could take Scala into some areas that it doesn't, or that it can't really get into easily right now because of the runtime size requirements that normally come along with it. I'm particularly interested in things like AWS Lambda, whether it can be compiled up and then slammed up onto Lambda to do some serious parallelism, that sort of thing. Do you know? Does anyone know yet?
I don't recall a slide on that. Maybe we should have Dennis on next time to ask him questions.
Actually, we should.
Oh, yeah.
Try to get an interview with him, because there's tons of native questions I have.
Yeah.
In related news, did you guys see that Swift just started compiling to Android?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. I think it was a Facebook engineer actually drove that change through.
That could finally be the unifying language between the two platforms if it.
Scala Native is too late.
No, it's not too late.
We have to speed it up. We'll ask these questions in the interview, like, hey, do you plan to invent time travel so we can beat Swift to native?
I think there's plenty of space for both, but I'm actually, given what I'm doing right now, I'm more interested from a AWS Lambda point of view on it. I already write Lambda functions in Scala, but the approximate 2-second startup time and all that sort of thing sort of cuts into the full utility of it. So this would be a way around that, I think, or could be a way around that.
Yeah. The talk, was it talking about doing, I remember seeing something about garbage collection and trying to be clever about static garbage collection. Is that correct?
So there wasn't a lot of detail given about the garbage collector, except that he wanted to use the Boom GC.
I mean, there isn't a GC story yet, so that's probably the biggest reason why no one should be getting too excited about this being too imminent. I mean, that's a really big hurdle that this project has to clear. It's the same hurdle that the last Scala on LLVM project by Jeff Reedy, stalled because it never cleared.
Yeah, I mean, so what I'm excited by is if we end up taking the research done into static analysis-based memory region collection. So like you figure out where a memory region is used in lexical scope, and then you automatically collect garbage afterwards, as opposed to relying on a garbage collector, and then you also rely on a garbage collector depending on the variable types. That kind of thing I think is possible with some more sophisticated analysis in a language. I'm really excited to see if that happens. That's what I'm mostly excited by with Scala Native, is that it opens this whole realm of a blended GC world that could be amazing.
I was hoping for that actually, and I was speculating, perhaps wrongly, but I mean I don't know. I haven't debated this or anything with Dennis, but just at the moment the knee-jerk kind of response, or sort of the general direction, seems to be taking another GC off of the shelf and trying to use that. And I think that's sort of what they are looking to do, even though I would agree with you, it would be really cool if they could look at some of, I mean, there's a ton of work done on region-based memory management. It's been a very popular field, or rather area of kind of study in academia, and I mean, there's all kinds of interesting insights that could be, picked up and sort of fixed up and used and applied to Scala, right? It's not like it's completely an endless pit of a problem. It's like kind of worked through a little bit. So I would have also loved the region-based stuff. I just can't at the moment. I get the sense that that's not at the moment the region that they're moving towards.
Yeah. Well, it could be like a make it work first and then make it fast kind of a thing.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, I would worry that I mean, the region-based stuff might be pretty pervasive. I mean, you can't. I don't know if it's something that you could easily just like stick on after you figured everything else out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have a Scala Center question, Heather. Suppose I work for giant corporation incorporated, and I really want to see Scala Native happen. Can I write the Scala Center a big check to make it happen?
That would help, yeah. I mean, so the way that it works is any checks that we get from companies, they go into a pot to fund initiatives like these, right? And actually, during this advisory board meeting, Scala Native came up as something that people wanted to try and make sure was funded. So yes, hypothetically yes. So just make a big check come in. I'll give you a postal address you can mail it to. Just let me know when you send it.
Wait, does it have to be a comically large check?
Yes. Yeah.
We only accept checks
One of those.
long.
One of those presentation ones. So
as
a
long
quick.
as it's a vanity check, it's fine. If it's just this big, I'm sorry, we can't accept that. Electronic transfer, no. Only vanity checks.
A quick update again from Lutz was that for AWS Lambda, consider compiling to JavaScript with Scala.js. Yes, I hadn't thought about that actually. That would be an interesting one to try. See how it does, because JavaScript does start up and go a lot faster on Lambda if you're doing simple stuff. So the Scala Center, this is a good moment to bring it back around to that, I think. And I have lots of questions about that. So one of the things that, again, watching from the sidelines, there's the, I forget what it's called, but basically the library directory that you guys have put or are putting together.
The package index.
Yeah. Is it the language index? I thought it was for...
we just called it I don't know, we've been calling it a package index.
The package index, right.
Yeah, because we got a bunch of, so basically we scraped a bunch of places for information. Mostly we got effectively all known Scala libraries out of Maven, basically, and so we ended up with a bazillion T POM files, and then we tried to sort of join other bits of information like from GitHub and other locations such as like Stack Overflow and whatnot, and we also want to allow users who own libraries to be able to update their information, right, so that you can create this nice unified view of a project, and I mean it would include what what the dependency that you should put into SBT in order to include it. And, actually, what is most interesting is we can get a list of dependents, so reverse dependencies, so you can see how many other libraries depend on this library, for example. Of course, it's all published libraries. We're not just getting everything off of GitHub, but anything that's published, we will show you everything else that's published that depends on it, so it can give some sort of sense of how widely used something is, or by who, or what sorts of projects. And we try to give other sort of interesting bits of information. So just little bits and metrics off of GitHub, things like that. So at the moment, this is sort of the goal, and also to help people discover libraries. So you can also, if you own a library, if you're a contributor to a library, you can. If there aren't already keywords added, you can add sort of some keywords, and we're always indexing this, so we can have a nice browsing function, so you can just discover different sorts of libraries. So parsing libraries, I/O libraries. You can discover a new JSON library, because I'm sure you're interested in another one.
There is a section of the site that is dedicated only to JSON type class libraries,
it has its own
and it's
index,
by far
actually.
the largest section of the whole site.
Yeah, you need a separate index just for JSON libraries, so you don't overload the regular index.
Yeah, you need a separate index to index the JSON libraries.
JSON libraries, everything else.
But anyway, the goal is to. So I mean, the goal is pretty concrete. The goal is to basically, I find it kind of embarrassing that Scala is so widely used and doesn't have anything like this, and every other language basically does, and much less mature languages, much less widely used languages have all of these things, and it's kind of silly that we haven't all this time. And so if you are somebody who needs to just pick up a library, either you got to know already by word of mouth the library that you want to try, or you've got to look around on the internet, usually finding suggestions made on Stack Overflow. You get a list of options from Stack Overflow that somebody else recommended maybe 2 years ago, and that's kind of how you figure out which library to use. And hopefully, you can hope that there's a project page or it's obvious to figure out how to grab the dependency. Right? I think it's a few too many steps to find stuff, basically, and it's all word of mouth, and I think that's also a little bit weird. I mean, not everybody is the best at being a publicist for their library, so
Right.
if you're not a publicist, I mean, and you are a capable developer and you made something very useful, and even if you're not committing to it every 2 weeks, it's maybe just a solid library that works. Who cares? It's useful. It would be cool if people found it and they didn't have to, it wasn't all based on hearsay whether or not it's a good or a bad library. You could just see, okay, a lot of people use this library, maybe it's not developed very often, but look, the author's updating it with each new version of Scala. That's cool. Must be just stable, like you can just look at the data and make that judgment by yourself, and you don't have to worry about.
Are they?
So what's the URL for this, by the way? Or is
So
it
we
not
didn't.
launched?
So right now, what we showed was something that we just are building locally. We have a server to run it on eventually, but we haven't made it public yet because we're still we've got the data, which was the hardest part. We've cleaned up this data and we've made it nice. Now we're just working on trying to show it to people in a nice way via a nice UI. So we're trying to organize and visually present the information to people, and we're going to have that ready by Scala Days Berlin. So that will be public and live and ready to go by then. But right now we kind of just showed this kind of rough view of the data that we have right now and kind of the beginnings of what we would like to show at Scala Days. I'm sure it'll come up as a video in the next couple of days. You could probably see it as soon as it gets released.
Is there going to be a way to like a +1 or thumbs up for people
voting?
to sort of...
Yeah, a lot of people have suggested voting is something that they want to see on it, so that you can get some measure of what people think about it, not just like statistics. And I think that's also a good idea.
You should only allow positive voting. Negative voting. If you
Yeah,
click the
only I
negative
think
button,
only be positive.
you have to click a button that says, "Yes, I understand. I'm being mean."
Yeah. We're probably not going to do a negative voting, and also we're going to require logging in to vote if we do that. So it's also.
But yeah, a thumbs up or a +1 or a like button. Those are good because there is a subjective quality. And I don't know that any algorithm is going to capture everything, like whether the documentation is good. You can tell whether documentation's there, but you can't always tell whether a machine can't tell whether the documentation is actually good and tells you what you need to know or not. So.
Excuse me. Yes.
Bless you.
Thank you. Oh, that reminds me also. Thanks for bringing it up. It also connects to, so basically, of course, you can see all of the releases of a certain library, and it maps to the Scala docs for these things. Because
Excellent.
Another service that generates Scala docs and lets you navigate them, and we've spoke to this guy and make requests in his thing and redirect people to the docs for whatever library they request. So you can also get all of the Scala docs for any version that you'd like now, which is also very cool because that's.
I love this feature.
Can you link it to Scala X-Ray?
Sorry?
Are you familiar with Scala X-Ray?
Oh, Scala which?
X-Ray?
X-Ray, no, I have not. They said Scala.
Oh, it's an old utility from Mark Hara days. It basically takes your source code, and then it syntax highlights it and generates HTML, where if you click on like a reference, it will link to the file where it's defined.
Oh, nice.
So it's basically like a giant code browsing thing. There are other versions of this out there, but if you're building an index of all possible libraries and code, it's actually useful then to like browse the internals of the code. Like they have that for Java. I forget what it's called. But I've used that to hunt down JVM classes that are broken, and I need to check if it's actually a real bug.
That sounds like it would make a great external contribution for somebody to like kind of revive Scala X-Ray and hook it up to Scaladex once the Scaladex source is out.
Don't tell anyone. Oh, yeah. I'm hoping to have time to get to that. We'll see.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I'm also
so that
hoping
actually
to rope in people who know more than I do about things, like
That brings up
a
great point as well, which is if people want to help and get involved, how do they do that right now?
So with what, the Scaladex thing?
Yeah, just like
Okay, so the Scaladex is in a weird state right now. So probably a month ago, we were pulling in people to help, but right now we're kind of on like this. We're in the situation where you know, there's a couple of people who have some concrete sort of stuff that they want to do, and it requires some weird refactoring that affect other people, right? And as a result, we're a little bit afraid. All of a sudden, there's a bunch of people like, oh, how do I help? And I'm like, oh God, we really wanted you to help like a couple of weeks ago, but could you just hold on for a couple more weeks until we finish a few things, and then be able to release it? Because we're afraid if these three people who are kind of doing stuff that are depending on each other, somebody else comes in and makes a pull request, we won't be able to accept it because it's not going to merge or something like this, and somebody's going to be frustrated. So basically, we want to finish this like reorganization of stuff, so it gets to a point where it's, you know, stable-ish, and there's no contention. Like, you don't need to grab a lock to try it, you know. And it's going to take a couple of weeks before we can really like start giving little pieces away to other people to try and pick up and help out with. So in order to help, the best suggestion is to go to the Scala Gitter channel, and if you know, just chat with us a little bit on there, and if we can figure out kind of how you would fit in, we have this Slack channel for the project where we kind of make all of our design decisions on the Slack channel. I mean, we don't mean to keep it like separate. It's just that we want to keep the water cooler kind of chat away from like the focused project chat.
Okay.
So we should start moving people over to the Slack channel if they want to start hacking on the Scaladex project with us. But it would be good if we had at least probably 2 weeks or so of like, let's clean up the dirty closet time, and then, you know, give it to everybody and say, okay, we need help with this, this, and this, and this. So anybody who wants to help, come and help. But the entry point is the Gitter channel. So gitter.im/Scala/center is where you should go.
I think that's actually a common problem when you do any kind of major refactoring of, we just did a major refactoring, or we're doing a major refactoring. It's actually really hard to accept contributions at that point in time because no one's seeing the state of where the code is going unless you're actively following. Yeah. And if you're like a weekend developer, you know, open source contributor as opposed to like day-to-day on the project, it's really hard for you to keep up with changes. That was definitely true with the SBT 1.0. You know, when I wasn't working on it full time, it was really hard for me to just keep track of everything as it was flying through.
Absolutely, I totally feel you there. And also, yeah. If you see something, if you have a snapshot of the universe and you want to contribute to it, it's open source and you can just start contributing to it in whatever way you think you should. But if you cannot, you know, tell that there's a guy who's refactoring the universe, and you spend a whole weekend hacking away on it, and then the refactoring is completely destroyed everything you did, and it takes another half a day to get it like back to some shape where you can make a pull request, it's frustrating, you know? And this is what I want to avoid. I want people to have a good experience if they start trying to contribute to our projects. I think it's really crucial, especially for the first few projects, to set a precedence for, you know, having a good relationship with outside contributors and making sure that they feel like, you know, they're appreciated and that we're not wasting their time and not appreciating it, right? So I'd really like to sort of at least maybe we'll screw it up a few times, or maybe we'll be too slow or too fast. I don't know. I really hope we don't mess it up, but I really want to. It's really important to me personally, at least, to set a good precedent for this and maybe the next 2 or 3 projects, so we have a way of dealing with contributions and organizing them, you know, such that people you know, don't get frustrated. People feel like they're, you know, a part of the project. I don't want them feeling like they're on the outer edge somewhere else, right? I want them to be a part of the project, and I don't want them to ever feel like their effort is wasted. So I'm trying to control very carefully for that, so that people, you know, can come and contribute and feel productive, and that's really important to us.
Yeah, awesome. So one thing, we have a few questions here, but more importantly, we never actually introduced what the Scala Center is.
Okay. Yes. Sorry. So the Scala Center is a new not-for-profit sort of center that's got 2 main goals. The first goal is open source.
Large vanity checks, right?
Right.
Sorry?
First goal is
more large checks. Yeah, large checks.
First goal is to be in Switzerland and not in California.
That's also true. Yeah, but a footnote: this isn't EPFL is not in California. EPFL is in Switzerland. See, there was a picture that I showed, because it's very common that people don't realize that there's a difference between EPFL and light safe. So I really wanted to sort of just point out again, I know that it sounds stupid, but guys, there's two things that exist, and they're in different countries. One's a university, and the other one is a company. You know? So we're part of a university, and we're not for profit, and we're like heavily policed to not be for profit. So you know, it's also it's a federal university, so they're also very they care very much that we're not running some like consulting business out of their hallways. So they keep a close eye on how we manage everything to make sure that we are not being controlled by any particular interest. Like one company is not controlling us, or all of these things. They try to make sure that we're really doing things that are in the interest of sort of the public and are like education focused and whatnot. And actually, they scrutinize any sort of incoming any incoming transactions sort of always intensely. So they need a bunch of documentation to even accept a transfer and issue an invoice. So it's actually, it can be a little bit of a hassle and some red tape, but I think it's a really good layout for doing something for the community, right? We don't just say, oh, we're for profit, we swear. I mean, we're actually like enforced to be not for profit. We swear we're not for profit, and then we're really enforced to be not for profit by the university that we're within. So it's a nice control check. But the idea is we do, like I said, two things. So sort of software development, open source development that's sort of for the good of everybody, for the good of all Scala developers is really the best summary for it. So we shouldn't be focusing on things that benefit only one company, for example. We should be focusing on things that benefit the most people possible, like greatest impact possible for the effort that we invest in it. And this is sort of software sort of development stuff. So whether it be working on something like this package index, or working on helping Scala Native to like come into life, things like this, migration tools between Scala 2.x and Dotty. These are the sorts of things that everybody can benefit from, and if we are investing effort, we should be investing in effort in these initiatives that really carry more developers farther in their day-to-day work. And that's one side. The other side is education. So of course, being at a university, the university wants us to be educating people, and sort of what that means is, in particular, EPFL is really happy about their MOOCs, and really like the Scala MOOC was the biggest MOOC by far at EPFL. So they wanted more, and they wanted this was very successful for them. So they wanted to see that more MOOCs existed, and of course, Scala developers are happy that more MOOCs exist because it's ways to get more sort of in-depth educational materials. So we have now, the first two. So we have now 4 MOOCs in a series. The first 2 are oldish material from the previous MOOCs that we've done. And then we have 2 new MOOCs. One is about parallel programming, so task and data parallel programming.
Okay, sorry, I'm going to cut you off. MOOC, for people who want to know, is an online course like Coursera that people can join in, like the Scala course that Martin gave. That is what MOOC means. For those of you who were confused, I just realized we didn't actually explain that yet. But I've heard the term so much, it just blew past me.
It always makes me think of Mookie from Do the Right Thing. It could just be a personal thing to me.
Is it massively something online course?
Massively open online courseware.
Massively open online courseware. Yeah. Okay, got it.
So tens of thousands of people take a course together, and that's the idea. So we had. Sorry?
It's the next evolution after MMORPG. Like
I think actually we should combine them. Yeah, we should combine them so that you actually, show up as your avatar, like a dancing cow, and take the course.
Can I take the course as a paladin? Is that okay?
I can make a request to Coursera and say that we should have animated avatars for students. That would make the learning experience much better.
So to drag it round to serious again, though, something that's close to my own heart from the last year or so of effort. Are there any plans for the Scala Center to get the SIP/SLIP stuff kind of revived and moving again as well?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
There's a list of things, and we have to try and because we've gotten donations from companies, and we can hire a couple of people with that money, but we have to try and make sure we put people. few people that we end up eventually hiring on the right projects. And I think the SIP/SLIP process is kind of at the top of the list of the things that we should be working on. So next month,
it's a lot of work.
I know it is.
I can tell you it's a
No,
lot
no,
of
no,
work.
no. It's not that much work, and it's fun.
Yeah, you should
That is
apply.
that is the official story.
That's the official story. I noticed nobody took it over after I
I
left.
think of the four of us, I think three of us ran it at one point in time. No, all four of us did, right? Heather, you helped me in the original SIP.
Briefly.
I was never fully in charge of it, I think, but I was, But no, Seth was doing it. Seth did it a couple of times.
That's
Seth
true.
did it a couple times. Dick did it a couple times. I did it way back, and I think that was when you helped me with the website, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's basically a big machine that just chews up human beings and spits them out.
It's tough. It's like making it's a little bit politics. It's making people make progress. That's not easy. And also, it's one thing if you're a company and there's some hierarchy and employees and everybody has like a common goal. In this situation, everybody doesn't have a common goal necessarily. They have maybe overlapping goals, but not always the same. And they're not. It's just
my experience is you don't make a lot of friends doing it.
Yeah. The most important
you tend not to make a lot of friends trying to do that role.
The most important thing is to make sure that decisions relating to Scala are done in the open and not like in some, because you could still make the decision behind closed doors via email, and you could make the right decision, but unless it's open and people can see what the decision is, they will hate you forever after that decision, but more importantly, they won't actually feel like they're a part, and they won't legitimately be a part of the decision. Even if when you get with 20 people you come to the same conclusion, right? It's still worth it to actually come to that conclusion in the open where people can see it so that everybody understands and benefits from the logic, right? That's why you have to do it. So
it's very difficult to get there, but yes, that's important,
Yeah, right on.
We got somebody who hopefully will be hired on time for the next meeting. So he will, assuming everything goes as planned, be taking up the next meeting. So ideally, already next month we should have somebody at least picking it up and thinking about how to revamp it so that we can, pull more people in and make more progress, basically, on sort of coming together and making decisions together. So that's one goal.
All right, so we don't have a lot of time because you have a hard stop in 2 minutes. We have two questions. One question is actually not a question. It's about Scala X-Ray, and it's actually an example for people who are interested, which we'll put on the show notes.
Yeah. So thanks, Tim.
Yeah. The next is actually from Tim as well, and this is asking about the response you gave during Scala Center about Scala Native.
Oh yeah. So Tim is in Tim Parrott doing the advisory board. Tim is on the advisory board actually, so I'm not sure if he's broadcasted that, but that's cool.
So you better answer wisely.
Is on the advisory board, and basically what happened was this. Actually, I have a little bit more information about Scala Native now because, like I said, during the advisory board meeting, which was the day before most of Scala Days started, we were all like, well, we know a little bit about Scala Native, but Dennis has been hiding in a cave, and he wants to just release it and announce it and show it off. And actually, we haven't been privy to sort of what it could do as of that day, right? It's still far away from being something that anybody could pick up and use and without stress or worry right now today. But at the time that we had this meeting, it was difficult to say, well, because we didn't know exactly what the status was or how we could help. So there was a suggestion by one of the companies that sit on the advisory board to, please push this project. Please make this project go somewhere. And in the advisory board meeting, we wanted to say, okay, so this is the status of that project. And maybe we could do, I don't know, this or that, right? These are ideas that we could do. So yes, I think it's possible that we could do something. So everybody, do you all think that's a good idea? And then everybody should raise their hand. But there wasn't enough information at that moment in time to be able to make a firm judgment about what we could do. And also there was some some info that Sebastian brought to Sebastian, the Scala JS guy, brought to the table because he knew a little bit more about the Scala Native project than any of us. He was like, well, I think Dennis really does need a little bit more time to hack on it himself. He needs to get it to some point, and then once it's doing, I don't know, 80% of the things that it should be doing, we can start passing it off to other people, getting help here and there, help on the libraries, help like migrate, certain things that need to be migrated in order for this to be a part of any ecosystem, etc. And so at the meeting, the idea was, okay, well, let's maybe let Dennis focus on it a little bit, and then figure out how we can help. So how we can, do sort of library migrations that need to be done, or any sort of supporting activity. So at the exact moment that we had this meeting, it was difficult to say for sure what we could do, but we could try X, Y, Z. So when it came up to like vote on this, it was like, well, let's get maybe more information and try to get somewhere between now and the next meeting before we say, okay, this is definitely ready for the Scala Center to, pick up and help out and carry somewhere. Let's see if we can help first. Let's see if Dennis even wants our help first. And so that was sort of the decision based on the information that was available at the time of this meeting that we had. But like I said, more information is coming in, and we're finding out that Dennis does want time to focus on this library a little bit, but he's very keen on having eventual help with the whole everything outside of sort of the backend and the compiler. He wants to focus on it right now by himself, and then soon expand outward and get help from others. So then in that situation, we would probably be the ones to step up and say, all right, how can we help? What can we do? And to try and organize some effort around what he thinks he needs. So that's I hope I answered Tim's question.
Cool.
But that was sort of the outcome and all of the sort of discussion around the Scala Native project at the Scala Advisory Board meeting. And there will be notes published very soon. Seth was so kind to take minutes for us. So I think we're probably going to end up publishing them probably today, so everybody can see.
This raises another great question, which is, are the videos from the talks from Scala Days going to be available online?
I assume so. There were cameras.
Yeah,
okay.
As
Does anyone know?
As always.
Yeah,
Because
It'll be like a month or so.
It was Parlays in the past, I thought, that they went with, and I'm not sure Parlays is doing that anymore.
Too, didn't they? Once, I don't know. It seems like they choose different services at different times. I'm not sure who's doing it this time.
Okay.
I think they go with whoever is nicest at the time. I gotta go.
Okay. Yeah, me too. I gotta check out a hotel, and I assume Seth does too, probably, right?
Yes.
All right. As a parting shot, I just want to say, let's not leave it for 3 months before we do the next Scalawags, please.
Yeah. Why don't we do it? We can try the Scala Native episode.
There's a lot more to say about Scala Days. I mean,
yeah.
Maybe
Maybe next week.
starters.
Maybe we can pull something together for next week or very soon to go through the rest.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Awesome.
All right.
All right.
Have a nice day, everyone.
See you. Bye.